Soviets might be trying to introduce a new weapon.
Nice.
Wrenn and Krys, it's so good to talk to you. So we're here in H-Town, so y'all have been representing in this series for season 1 and season 2. I myself am a massive space enthusiast. I actually got some NASA plaques here. Even got a rocket, you know. This is one of my smaller ones too. So
This is nice.
Wow.
got to represent, you know. So I wanted to ask y'all, I want to talk about y'all's characters and maybe some of the inspiration for it. Wrenn, I want to start with you. Because you play one of the first female chief flight directors for NASA. So I was wondering if you've actually gotten to meet the real first female flight director, Holly Ridings.
I have not. I would love that. There's actually quite a few female flight directors at this point, and honestly, I'm taking any and all meetings. So call me, ladies, call me.
Krys, for your character, have you gotten to talk to astronaut Mae Jemison? Chance. She was first African-American woman in space. I don't know if you've gotten to talk to her to prepare for the role.
So I've actually gotten a chance to talk to Joan Higginbotham, who is the third African-American woman in space. And that was a delight. I've been, as a side project, we've created this For All Mankind podcast. And so I have just gotten my desserts for interviewing so many incredible astronauts and former astronauts. And so she was one of the guests on the For All Mankind podcast, which you guys should tune into because it's pretty good.
I want to talk about y'all's characters real quick. Molly Cobb, for example. Is there anyone that you kind of base that character off of? Because I immediately go to Amelia Earhart because just of her bravado and tenacity.
So Amelia Earhart was definitely someone we used as inspiration for her wardrobe. I really loved the idea that she thought of herself as a pilot in that mold. So the high-waisted pants and the shirts, all of that was a very conscious choice to sort of mold her that way. And someone who was veering masculine in terms of how she presented by necessity. Then also add to that is she's very much based by the writers on a real character called Jerry Cobb, who was part of the Mercury 13, a group that was assembled and hopefully trained as astronauts, and then NASA never went any further with it, having taken them all the way through this rigorous testing and training. So Molly is, to my mind anyway, a fusion of both of those people.
And how about for you, Jodi, for Ellen Wilson? Was there anybody that you looked at?
Yeah, I was just saying I looked a lot at Sally Ride, and she wasn't out publicly herself. In fact, she was outed by the New York Times obituary, but she did live for a very long time in partnership with Tam O'Shaughnessy, her longtime partner, and then a business partner too in Sally Ride Science. So yeah, I learned a lot about Sally in preparation for this.
One of the things I really love about this show is, I mean, it's the whole premise of the show, but it's like alternate reality to where the Russians, beat us to the moon. In the long run, a lot of firsts end up happening a lot sooner. But my question for you is, what was it about the alternate reality in the first season that surprised you the most or that you found the most fascinating?
I really love that there were so many more women involved. Just the women, period. That was a huge, exciting bonus for me in the second half of the season. And honestly, getting to work with Krys too, because Margo doesn't really get to, in the first season, work with many of the astronauts. And so it was really nice that both Krys and Michael were in mission control. I was like, hello, nice to work with you. Episode 9. So I really loved that.
Much like Wrenn, I think seeing so many more women in the space program. You were asking a question about Mae Jemison, who didn't go into space until the early 90s. And Danny really isn't based on her because she goes into space in the early 1970s. I love that in our world that we've created an environment where so many things have been so much more escalated because of our loss from the Russians. So that was just such a pleasure to play that part. And being in this very strong female environment, which as we know is not the truth, and NASA in the early 1970s, that was a real treat.
Us being here in Houston, did y'all get to travel to Johnson Space Center or maybe work with NASA in any way?
Well, we have NASA people on speed dial, thank God, because otherwise this show would be would lack all the authenticity that it actually has. No, I mean, we are so fortunate to have Garrett Reisman, an astronaut, on call. I can text him, I can ask him any question. I actually got to do a couple of scenes with him this season. We have, numerous people who have far more expertise than we do. Sadly, none of us got to go to anywhere. Certainly not for season 2. We were in the midst of a lockdown when we were trying to finish the show, but we reaped the benefit of everyone else's amazing knowledge. Thank God.
Yeah, I think the closest we got to anything like that was our wrap party after season 1 was underneath a shuttle at the Science Museum downtown.
I'm curious, what was your first memory of space as a child? Let's go to you, Sonya.
I was not a kid who was intrigued by space. It wasn't my thing. I was much more, I was a bookworm from an early age. So my nose was in a book, not up at the skies at all. So, like anyone, I've lain on the earth and looked at the stars and felt insignificant. But I've never fantasized about space, never thought about it, never thought, oh, I wish I could go. So getting this role was a true immersion in a whole new world. It's one of the great things about being an actor, incidentally, is you get these baptisms into entire worlds you know nothing about, depending on whatever role you get. It's such a lovely byproduct of what we get to do.
Yeah, I wish I had a contrasting answer for you, but I am much like Sonya in that way. And truly, I think my first realization that such a thing happened, or understanding of it, was probably learning about it in school or from my parents. I'm born in 1986, so a good chunk of time after it all happened. I can imagine being alive and awake enough to witness it as it happened would have had a profound impact on your interest in it. But I too, sort of, up until getting this job, didn't spend much time thinking about space. But it is, as Sonya said, a real gift to be asked to educate yourself and asked to learn about these things.
Do y'all think we should spend more on space research through either industry or government?
I would really love for I'm not an expert at this, but I would really love to see one of the big arguments I feel like that was what was happening at the same time that the space race was happening was like, what are we doing for people here on Earth? And I feel like what I would really love to see is more spending on schools, more spending on teacher salaries, more spending on healthcare. It's like, can we get that in shape? And then, I'd love for there to be more exploration.
And I think, dovetailing off what Wrenn just said, I think that there are ways that we can involve the space program with people here on Earth, finding ways to integrate the space program into early childhood education so that kids can see that it's not just this far off dream, but that a career in science and technology is totally feasible and totally a viable option, especially for young girls. I would love more money and attention to be put into those outreach programs more than anything.